Hey everybody, this is Herculespetix, founder, curator, docent, and gift shop employee of the Herculespetix Academy of Comic Book Studies. Today we're going to be looking at Armadillo Comics number 2. This title was a little confusing because the first issue and the third issue had different titles. The first issue was called Armadillo Tunes, and the third one was called Gordelier for some reason. Something like that, some weird thing. So technically, this is the only Armadillo comics, but really it's number 2 of this Armadillo series. It's the creation of Jim Franklin, who was a Texas expat who lived in San Francisco. And of course, he hooked up with Ripoff Press, who were all Texas expats as well. And I gotta say, in underground comics, his stuff is pretty singular. A lot of artists were doing trippy, crazy psychedelia. His stuff really isn't psychedelia. It's like just really well-drawn surrealism. He doesn't really go for these like groovy flights of fancy where you could, trip out looking at a drawing. They're all pretty well rendered and realistic, but they're definitely surreal. It's more of a heady psychedelia than a visual psychedelia. Jim Franklin does the cover, of course. Obviously, this guy's obsessed with armadillos. We have this inside front cover from deep in the heart of Texas. Look at the chops on Jim Franklin, man. This is just great. This armadillo bursting through this page. It looks like blood and guts are flying out. It's really accomplished. This is a quote from Leo Kottke. Vaseline machine gun for waking up nude in a sleeping bag on the shore of the Atlantic, surrounded by a volleyball game at high noon, and for the end of the volleyball game. I don't know what that means, and I don't really understand this drawing, but it's amazing. Here's a big armadillo and little armadillo, which is drawn by Megan Durden, age 3. This is like one of the few other artists in this issue other than Jim Franklin. Alternate route, and we see these amazingly well-drawn armadillos jumping over this highway. Just look at the shading on there, and such really good artist. This is the kind of stuff that reminds me of like B. Claban, where it's just very silly, very dada, very surreal. An illustration showing the ecological role played by a bull in fertilizing the soil. And we just see for 8 panels this bull eating food and then he poops. Pretty stupid. The Glyptodon, which I guess is the prehistoric ancestor of the armadillo. And this begins just this total trippy comic. I love this kind of stuff. This camera's zooming in on the armadillo patterns, and then it just becomes something else entirely. I obviously can't explain this, so I hope you're watching. Panel by panel, it's just craziness is going on. Man, he's just got a tight style. Slick. You have this weird little comic. It says each one starts out in a different direction and ends up in the same place. And once again, I have no idea what's going on, but it looks amazing. Look at this amazingly beautiful drawing. It's titled Lightning Hopkins. And we see the famous old blues singer up in the storm clouds. And this guy's making like Ben Franklin. God, that's a good drawing. This is a drawing he did for Gilbert Shelton. Oat Willie disguised as an armadillo detection device, riding through a field of pumpkins disguised as armadillos. It's just fucking pure surrealism. Pure nuttiness. The famous Texas Underground Pass. I like this one. The football turns into an armadillo, and he leaps out of the quarterback's arms, burrows to the ground, to the end zone, and this receiver Picks him up and takes him for the goal. Survival in the Desert. This one, it says by Jim Franklin and Ike. And I don't know who Ike is. Just more silliness. This guy's traveling through the desert like with his own porta-john. And a bunch of okra. Just a nice little interesting drawing there. Ripped off. Armadillo's tail. Torn off at the root. Oh, I guess this continues? Is this part of it? I don't know. It doesn't really matter. Once again, can't explain it. But really good stuff. I mean, it's easy to follow. It's not just like he's not putting any thought into it, but it's purely like dream imagery. Like, you know, surrealism. I know that word gets overused a lot, but, and perhaps I'm overusing it, but that's what I would define as surrealism. In answer to the famous question, why did Mr. Peanut cross the road? It's just nuts. Literally. So, Mr. Peanut turns into an armadillo. I don't know what's going on, but it sure is fun to read. This is so B-Claban, this one. The famous first flight of Trans-Armadillo Airways. Famous first heavier-than aircraft made of 2 giant enchiladas. It's kind of funny. And this one's called, well, I don't know if it's called Shiva's Headband, but it's this album from this band. The record flies onto the turntable, turns into an armadillo, crawls into this guy's ear. It's pretty repulsive. Comes out of his mouth, climbs back on the turntable, and turns back into a record. All very cinematic. Man, that's cool stuff. This is just like an art drawing. Bullets and lipstick. That's not the title, but that's what it is. God, it's weird. Like, looking at it from a distance, I didn't notice this last night because I was reading it in bed. It was very close to my face. But when you pull back from this one, it almost looks photorealistic. Whatever technique he's doing there. Oh, man, that's weird. I did not notice that last night. Yeah, like I said, Jim Franklin, man. He's quite an artist. This is interesting. This is a quote from Captain Beefheart, illustrating a quote from Captain Beefheart. A whirling dervish, honey of 2 white pigs, bore snoots and touched tusks on either husk of the sun and moon. An apple dropped through membrane, arches broke embryonic, picked out seed cores. This craziness, but man, this was some well-drawn hogs. Warthogs, I guess. That's some good shit. Is this another sideways one? Yeah. And I don't know if this is what I took from this is like a typical kind of hippie idea, like this is what we're doing to the world, just a big pile of shit. But there's another way, like how the Native Americans just lived with the land and didn't try to subjugate it. I mean, that, who knows? But it's very interesting. Whatever this stuff is going on is amazing. I don't know if these are bee stingers or something. Obviously, these are snakes. His chops are so formidable. I love it. His art. This one's called Sweet Funk. And just a beautiful surreal drawing. For some reason, I love this fire hydrant through a mattress. And for some reason, it's hovering over an alligator. And all these floating shovels. And these guys having fun. So this one's called The Plaster of Paris, Defender of Bad Taste. For some reason, this is credited to Crowbar and Tiny, but it's Jim Franklin. And this episode's called The Statuary Rape. Very odd. This woman is looking at this like very pedestrian type painting. Apparently it's Lyndon Baines Johnson, favorite painter. And Plaster of Paris attacks her and turns into the statue. I love this little bottom thing of just Mona Lisa getting sick and vomiting outside the painting. I gotta find more of this Jim Franklin guy. I didn't look it up. Sorry, guys. I don't know what else he's done. I assume he's in some of the rip-off press compilations. Look at the drawing here. It's called Never Bite Off More Than You Can Chew. And we see this shitty cop. His helmet turns into an armadillo. But man, look at that face. How well drawn that is. Amazing cartooning. You know, the lettering's kind of interesting, the way it's crisscrossing. And then it looks like the armadillo helmet just starts eating the guy. And it looks like he devoured the cop. Look at that. That shading there. Amazing stuff. This one's called Photo Booth. This is kind of silly and Dada-esque. Woman goes in a photo booth. She comes out with a rose head. This guy finds the pictures. And he goes into the booth and comes out with a ram's head. I don't know. But it's amazingly drawn. I forgot about this one. I don't know what the hell's going on. This harmonica, UFO. I don't know, but I like it. This is looks like it was just drawn from a photo. Some, some new building went up, I guess, and these people were doing the first shovelfuls, whatever they call that. Kind of interesting, just a totally different style than the rest of the comic. Here's another gross one. This guy's eating a hamburger, turns into an armadillo. He crawls up his nostril here. Look at that. And then he sneezes them out as little bubbles full of armadillos. And this little strip, we see an armadillo on the moon. He takes a bite out of the earth. Oh, just wonderful stuff. The Tower of the University of Texas, Austin. Yeah, Salvador Dali would like that. I didn't even notice this. Look at the trees. It's just pure scribble. And I didn't even notice it last night, but it totally works, you know. If you look at it quick, it says, like, oh yeah, there's a bunch of trees there. And you look close, it's just craziness. Just, oh man, so well drawn. Oh, look at this. That's amazing. Once again, no fucking idea what the hell's happening in this picture. But it's good. Oops. Okay. I had the comic off center. As they surveyed the dying sea, their shadows became the rock island upon which they stood. This looks like that Oat Willie incognito character from that earlier page. What the fuck? Sorry, guys. I just want to look at this a little more. There's just too much there to process. Maybe not enough to process as well. Unless you're on drugs. From the world-renowned manual, How to Survive in Texas Without Doing Very Much. How to Catch Worms. And this is obviously not very practical. It's just another exercise in surrealism. I like this one, U.S. Armadillo. And this sergeant tells all of his soldiers to be at ease. And they all turn into armadillos. And the sergeant's befuddled. The very well-drawn sergeant. And then a question mark turns into an armadillo. Why does the umbrella hover above the mother armadillo? It keeps your sandwich from getting wet. because there's a sandwich floating above the armadillo under the umbrella, obviously. It's nuts. This is really interesting. This is a drawing from Captain Beefheart, drawing Jim Franklin. And as you know, Captain Beefheart became a pretty highly regarded painter. So, you know, obviously he could draw a little. And then we have another beautifully surreal back cover. Everything began to look like modern art. And we see this crazy gallery with armadillo-themed modern art, which actually looks pretty cool, these pieces of modern art. And then, I don't know what's happening here at all. It's pure insanity. These graves with armadillos in them. Oh, God, I love this shit. So I really have to find Armadillo tunes and Gordelier or whatever it's called, because I am fully in love with this shit. I bought this a few years ago. I read it. I liked it. But it's amazing how sometimes you reread something. Maybe, you know, I was in a rush when I first read it or something was going on in my life. But now I'm just blown away by this. I really like Jim Franklin stuff and I want to find more. So I hope you guys enjoyed looking at it. Pretty amazing artist. And I hope to see you next time here at the Herculespetix Academy of Comic Book Studies.